Good morning, guys. So a couple of quick announcements. First, I have not yet tallied the final five, the top five for yesterday's game scores. I did have a lot of people submit close to 6 p.m., which is totally fine, but I didn't have a chance to go through them. So I need to go back, check through, see who my top five are. Remember, top five people get extra credit points on tomorrow's quiz. Your quiz is tomorrow. The quiz will cover everything you've studied so far this unit. So that includes the different forms of government. It includes the Bill of Rights, which we've spent the last 2 days studying. It also includes the 3 branches of government, which is the topic of today's lesson. So let's get started so that you're prepared for tomorrow. If you are someone who is watching the pre-recorded video, please make sure that before you do anything else, you pause the video now, you go back, you complete your RTL. People that are currently in live class, make sure that whatever question I asked you to respond to in the chat, you put your response in the chat so you can get your 100 for participation for the week. Here we go, guys. I will be able to explain the role of the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government. So we know in the United States, we have a representative democracy. We have a representative democracy. That's our form of government. We know from the different games that we played, the different lessons that we've done, in a representative democracy, the people get to vote. The people vote for leaders. So this term government and the type of government we have in the United States, representative democracy, this is probably familiar to us. There are some brand new terms though in this learning target. So let's take a moment to identify those. Our brand new terms in our learning target are going to be legislative. We don't know what that is yet, and that's okay. Executive and judicial. These 3 terms are new for us. We don't know what they are yet, and I'm not going to tell you. You're going to figure out what the legislative branch of government is, what the executive branch is, what the judicial branch is, through the activity that you are doing today. So now that we've identified our brand new terms in the learning target, and again, I'm not going to tell you what those are, you're going to figure it out yourself in the activity. Let's just check in with our agenda really quick. We've completed the RTL at this point. We've gone over the learning target. The next 2 steps is I have a quick video that I'm going to show you now that gives you a visual of what these 3 terms, legislative, executive, judicial branch, mean. And then you're going to go straight into today's activity.
Have you ever wondered who has the authority to make laws or punish people who break them? When we think of power in the United States, we usually think of the president, but he does not act alone. In fact, he is only one piece of the power puzzle, and for very good reason. When the American Revolution ended in 1783, the United States government was in a state of change. The founding fathers knew that they did not want to establish another country that was ruled by a king. So the discussions were centered on having a strong and fair national government that protected individual freedoms and did not abuse its power. When the new Constitution was adopted in 1787, the structure of the infant government of the United States called for 3 separate branches, each with their own powers, and a system of checks and balances. This would ensure that no one branch would ever become too powerful, because the other branches would always be able to check the power of the other 2. These branches work together to run the country and set guidelines for us all to live by. The legislative branch is described in Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution. Many people feel that the founding fathers put this branch in the document first because they thought it was the most important. The legislative branch is comprised of 100 U.S. senators and 435 members in the U.S. House of Representatives. This is better known as the U.S. Congress. Making laws is a primary function of the legislative branch, but it is also responsible for approving federal judges and justices, passing the national budget, and declaring war. Each state gets 2 senators and some number of representatives, depending on how many people live in that state. The executive branch is described in Article 2 of the Constitution. The leaders of this branch of government are the president and vice president, who are responsible for enforcing the laws that Congress sets forth. The president works closely with a group of advisors known as the cabinet. These appointed helpers assist the president in making important decisions within their area of expertise, such as defense, the treasury, and homeland security. The executive branch also appoints government officials, commands the armed forces, and meets with leaders of other nations. All that combined is a lot of work for a lot of people. In fact, the executive branch employs over 4 million people to get everything done. The third branch of the U.S. government is the judicial branch and is detailed in Article 3. This branch is comprised of all the courts in the land, from the federal district courts to the U.S. Supreme Court. These courts interpret our nation's laws and punish those who break them. The highest court, the Supreme Court, settles disputes among states, hears appeals from state and federal courts, and determines if federal laws are constitutional. There are 9 justices on the Supreme Court, and unlike any other job in our government, Supreme Court justices are appointed for life, or for as long as they want to stay. Our democracy depends on an informed citizenry, so it is our duty to know how it works and what authority each branch of government has over its citizens. Besides voting, chances are that sometime in your life, you'll be called upon to participate in your government, whether it is to serve on a jury, testify in court, or petition your congressperson to pass or defeat an idea for a law. By knowing the branches, who runs them, and how they work together, you can be involved, informed, and intelligent.
So based on your RTL responses, it's clear that a lot of people think the president has a lot of power. But the president is right here in the executive branch. He's only in one group that makes up our government. There are other groups like the judicial branch and the legislative branch. Today is about figuring out, what does the groups of people in the legislative branch and the judicial branch, what do they do? What's their role? And of course, what's the role of the people in the executive branch? So now what we're going to do is go over your activity for today, so you can see what you're going to do to figure out the role of all 3 groups of people in our government. So I'm going to start screen sharing. And you should already be on your daily packet for today. It's called Daily Packet Lesson 5, the 3 branches of government. If you scroll to the second page, because at this point, this RTL should be complete, pause the video now if you still have not completed your RTL. You're going to scroll to the second page. On the second page is where you'll find your reading, the material you need to complete today's activity. The name of the second page, it's called the 3 Branches of Government Worksheet. Before you begin today's activity, you're going to have to go through the 3 Branches of Government Worksheet. You'll have to read it and annotate before you even begin today's activity. Now let's look at the actual activity for today. We have to keep scrolling to get to the 3rd page. So this activity actually looks similar to the activity from Monday because it involves scenario cards. If we look at the directions, we're going to choose 7 of the following scenarios and complete the explanation column for your chosen scenarios. So on the left-hand side, you'll notice that there are scenarios. On the right-hand side, you've got your explanation column. Let's read what we do in the explanation column. The directions are highlighted. Explain which branch of government has the power in this scenario. Explain why using the information in your 3 Branches of Government worksheet. So the question specifically asks us to explain why a certain branch has power in each scenario. We need to use the information from our 3 Branches of Government worksheet in order to complete this chart. Otherwise, we won't be able to make sense of these scenarios. You're going to choose 7 of the scenarios to complete. You can pick, there are 10 total, pick 7. Don't forget to complete the exit ticket at the very end. That's part of your RTL exit ticket grade, is part of your weekly participation grade. Okay, thanks guys.